Hey everyone, it's Karley Hall and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm comparing these two machines. So if you are in the market for a cutting machine, this is a great video for you to choose which machine and which company is best for your needs. I have the Cricut Maker 3 and the Silhouette Cameo 5, and I'm going to compare them head to head on 4 categories. If you've been around my channel for a while, you may assume I'm super biased one way or the other, but it might surprise you to know that I actually moved to Utah back in 2015 to work at Silhouette America, and then I ended up going to their competitor Cricut sometime after that. So I know both companies really well, and I spent the last few weeks learning the Cameo 5 so that I can do a fair head-to-head comparison. If you've watched my other comparisons, this one will have a very similar format, just comparing the newer machines. So if you don't care about having the newest model and you want a better bang for your buck, check out my older comparisons. I still stand behind everything I said in those comparisons, and you can get a great machine for a lot less money. I'll link those in the video description so you can check them out. And if you're worried that you're going to buy a machine and then never use it, I promise you I won't let that happen. Subscribe to my YouTube channel right now and I will teach you how to use it. I already have tons of tutorials up for both Cricut and Silhouette, all for free right here on YouTube. Okay, let's get this started. I'm going to compare the machines on 4 categories. So the first one will be the price and really the value proposition. So what are you getting for the money that you're spending? And then next up, we are going to dive into the actual product features or tech specs, as I call them. So what each machine has, what I love about each machine, and what I don't actually use and don't think is really worth the extra money. Next, we will be comparing the software. So Silhouette Studio versus Cricut Design Space. And I think you know who my clear winner is if you've been around my channel for a while. And then last up, we will see the actual cutting. I know that's what you all care about. How do these machines actually cut? Is there one that is better than the other, or do they both cut great? So we'll see. I'll add chapters to this video, so feel free to hop around if you want to skip all the blabbering on and you just want to skip to one part or the other. Okay, let's get started. Here is what comes in the Cricut Maker 3 box. So you get your machine, you get your premium fine point blade and the blade housing. So that will cut most of your materials. It's pre-installed already in clamp B. And then you'll get an accessory adapter pre-installed in clamp A, a welcome card, a USB cable, power adapter, so you can plug it into your computer and have power. You'll get a free trial subscription to Cricut Access. If you're a new subscriber, if you've already had access, you will not get that. 100 free pre-designed projects in the app, materials for a practice cut, so it's like a small little piece of smart vinyl, and then you also get a bonus material kit. So you have 13-inch by 13-inch sheets of smart vinyl, smart iron-on, smart paper, it's like a sticker cardstock, and then some transfer tape. So right out of the box, you will have everything you need to do a project. In the Cameo 5 box, you get the machine, you get a power cable, cutting mat, the auto blade, a blade adjustment tool for the legacy tools, a roll feeder, Silhouette Studio software download, 100 exclusive designs, and then a free trial as well. If we compare what comes in each box, you can see both of them come with the machine, they both come with a power cord, and they both come with a blade that cuts most materials. The Cricut Maker comes with a USB cord while the Silhouette Cameo 5 does not. You don't need a cable for either of the machines. You can cut wirelessly with both, so you don't actually need the USB cable, but it is nice to have if you're having Bluetooth connectivity issues. Next, in the Cricut Maker 3, you do not get a cutting mat. So if you're looking to cut cardstock or fabric or something without a liner, so something other than vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, you do need a cutting mat. And so right out of the box, you cannot cut those materials unless you purchase a mat separately. The Silhouette Cameo does come with a cutting mat. The accessory adapter. So for the accessory adapter, it basically means that you can use pens in your Cricut machine, but it's limited to the Cricut pens or similar size pens. The Silhouette Cameo does not come with a pen adapter, but it does come with a legacy blade adjustment tool, so kind of similar, kind of different. They both come with software for free. You can actually use the software for free even if you don't purchase a machine. So if you're wanting to try out the software right now, you can download it for free without even having to purchase a machine. In the Cricut Maker 3 box, you do get an actual instruction manual, which will walk you through how to set it up. In the Silhouette Cameo 5, you do not get a manual, but on the side of the box, there is a QR code that you can scan and it will bring you to the landing page that will help you set it up. You get materials in the Cricut Maker. You do not get any in the Cameo. Both have digital designs, both have a trial subscription, and then the Cricut Maker does not include a roll feeder. So if you want to feed through longer materials, you can do that without a roll feeder, but it is easier with one. And the Silhouette Cameo 5 comes with a standalone roll feeder that you can use with your machine. So I know price is a huge determining factor on what you want to buy. The Cricut Maker, you will see it for $429, that's the MSRP. You can usually find it for less on sale around $399 and $330 for the Silhouette Cameo 5. The Silhouette Cameo just launched, so it's pretty much set right now at $330. I haven't seen prices that much lower than that. But if you consider the things that were not included, for example, if you want to buy a cutting mat, of course you can get it for cheaper, but this is what the Cricut website has the cutting mat price at, and the roll feeder. So $18 for a mat, $55 for the roll feeder. That will bring your total to $502 with the things that are already included in the Silhouette Cameo box. If you look at the Silhouette Cameo side, if you want to buy a USB cable, I just called it $10, and some materials, let's call that $10 too, you're looking at like $350. So about $150 difference between the Cricut Maker and the Silhouette Cameo 5 if you're looking at all the things that are included. But if you're just looking at the MSRP, it's about $100 difference between the two machines. And I will put everything I talked about in the video description so that you can easily find all of the links to all of the machines. And by shopping through those links, I may earn a commission that directly supports this channel so I can continue making content for free. So more tutorials on everything you need to know about your new cutting machine. Moving on to the product features, I know if you're new to a cutting machine, these product features might just sound like a lot of words until you actually see them in action. So we're going to go through the list, and then when I do my cutting demo, I'll call out kind of some of these features as I go through those demos. So I'm going to show you the comparison and all the product features, and then you'll see them in action a little bit later on. So the product features and tech specs, if you're looking at cutting area, you can see the difference here. It's 11.5 inches by 23.5 inches on a cutting mat for the Cricut Maker 3, and it's almost a full 12 by 24 inch on the mat for a Cameo 5. So you lose half an inch, a quarter of an inch around the entire margin of your mat with the Cricut Maker 3, whereas the Silhouette Cameo, I think you lose like a 1/16 of an inch along the edges. So minimal that I didn't even think I needed to mention it. Matless cutting area, you have 11.7 by 12 feet capability for cutting. So if you wanted to make one cut that was 12 feet long, you could do that with line material. So things like vinyl, smart materials, heat transfer vinyl, things like that. With the same lined materials, you can cut 11.6 inches wide by 16 feet with lined materials. I think for the Cricut Maker 3 though, you need to use the 13 by 13 inch material to get the full 11.7 inches, whereas on the Silhouette Cameo, you can use the 12-inch wide material and get the full 11.6. So I know that this kind of seems a little misleading because you need a wider material to take advantage of that full 11.7, whereas the Silhouette Cameo 5, you're using 12-inch wide material. Print then cut. This is where you print an image out on your printer and then use your cutting machine to actually cut it. And the area is 6.75 by 9.32 on letter size paper, and then 7.48 by 10 inches on letter size paper. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that makes a huge difference with the amount of material you're wasting. Each of the companies have introduced larger printing size. You can print tabloid with Cricut Maker and legal size. You can't print a full 12 by 12, and the Silhouette Cameo you can. So just some things to consider. The roll feeder, you can purchase it separately, but it's included with the Cameo 5. Maximum thickness of material is 2.4 millimeters for the Cricut, 3 millimeters for the Cameo 5. So the maximum cutting force for the Cricut Maker is 4,000 grams of force, and that is in the second tool holder, so not the first one. The first one you can't actually put a blade in, so you can't cut with that one. You can just use it to score and draw, and I don't even think you can foil in that one. Whereas on the Silhouette Cameo, both of the housings, you can use them for a lot. So the first one has 300 grams of force, and then the second one has 5,000 grams of force, and that is the highest in the machine class for cutting machine. So this has the most force of any cutting machine on the market. The force is the same as the Silhouette Cameo 4 though, so if you are interested in saving money, the Silhouette Cameo 4, I think it has 210 grams of force on the first one and then 5,000 on the second one. So they're still very strong machines. Both have Bluetooth, both have an app that's compatible for a computer, an Apple device, and Android device. Cross-cutting, auto cross-cutting, so when your project is done, if you're using vinyl or materials that are lined, you can, on the Silhouette, have an auto cross-cut where it cuts off your material, which is really cool. The Cricut Maker does not offer that. Tool storage on the machine, we will look at that together. There is tool storage. I love the tool storage on the Cricut Maker. There is no tool storage on the Silhouette. They both have dual carriages, so you have the two housings where you can use a score and then a cut, or a draw and then a cut, and you can do it all in the same action. The size, we'll look at those together, but they are very similar, 22 inches and some change by about 7 inches. The Cricut Maker is taller. Weight, the Cricut Maker is a heavier machine, but not by much. And then the noise level, I think this is going to be interesting to see in this comparison, see and hear, but the noise level is 35.19 to 75.65 decibels for the Cricut Maker, and then it's actually quieter according to the tech specs. The Silhouette Cameo 5 comes in at 26.11 to 62.7 decibels. So we'll see how that comes across in the video, and I'm interested to see how it compares head to head. Some additional features and add-ons that I want to mention. These are things that don't come with your machine, but you can purchase separately, and I think they're important, especially if you are a hobbyist like me that just likes to try a million different things. You want to know the potential of your machine. So while these things don't come with your machine, I think it's important to note what you can buy and add on. So powered tools. For the Cricut Maker, you can use third-party tools, but as you may know with Cricut, it will void your warranty. As with the Silhouette Cameo 5, the new series of machines they just came out with, the Cameo 5, the Curio 2, and the Portrait 4, I believe, they have a powered tool housing. So you can actually plug in tools directly into the machine and get power. So that's really cool. Rotary tool, they're both compatible, but neither of them come with the machine anymore. The Cricut Maker, the original one, did come with the rotary blade. They no longer come with it. The knife blade, the Cricut Maker has a knife blade, and then the Silhouette Cameo has a 2 or a 3 millimeter craft blade, which is similar. Scoring, Cricut Maker supports a stylus to score and a scoring wheel to score, whereas the Silhouette Cameo 5, it does have a score function, but I believe you can only use the regular blade. I don't think they have an option where it's a scoring unless you wanted to kind of use the embossing function or something like that. So still can do it, but a different way. They both have an embossing tool. The Cricut Maker supports engraving, albeit I don't think it's really that impressive. I have a video on it on my channel and it's got some issues. And the Silhouette Cameo 5 does not support engraving. However, Silhouette is launching a power engraver, side note, that you can use with the Curio, so not the Cameo. There is a perforation and a wavy tool that are supported by Cricut. I have them, I don't use them, but I can see their value. I just don't think they're that important, but Silhouette does not have those. The foil transfer tools, this is a big one. Cricut offers a pressure sensitive tool, so you add your foil and then it uses pressure to apply the foil. And the Silhouette just launched a foil transfer tool that uses heat. So it's very similar, if you remember the We Are Memory Keeper foil quill, it's very similar to that, but it works off the power from your machine. They both support pen tools, and this is a big one. We're not going to cover this today because this video would be way too long, but the Silhouette Cameo 5 supports an electrostatic mat that you can use in addition to the machine, come separately, and it will be great for cutting thin materials like crepe paper, tissue paper, really thin papers, things like that. Barcode jobs and IPT, I just combined those because I was running out of space. A barcode job is where you can add a barcode to a project and the Silhouette will actually read that barcode, so you don't have to use your computer. It will just remember that barcode and know what to do. So Cricut doesn't have that, Silhouette does. And then IPT stands for Intelligent Path Technology. This is new to me. It's new to Silhouette, but it's a algorithm that your machine will follow in order to get the best cut quality. So we probably won't cover that in today's video, but that will be a video down the road. Repeat job option. This is a little bit different. Both of them support it, but it's different. So on Cricut, you can make project copies or you can hit the button to repeat a job that's already loaded. Whereas the Silhouette has a button on it where if you wanted to repeat a job, you could repeat the same cut while it's still loaded, but you could also unload your mat, add a different mat with different material, and then repeat the job without ever using your computer. So if you're cutting 100 hearts out and you just need to keep on feeding in different sheets of paper, you can just click repeat over and over without ever going back to your computer. So I do think that's a really cool function. Starting with the Cricut Maker 3, this is the only color that it's available in as of now. It's like a light blue color, and it does feel very expensive. Like when you touch it, it's a solid piece of machinery, so it feels very quality. The lid is, I think, aluminum, and when you open it, it kind of just opens itself, and it's like a slow open effect, which I think is really cool. Inside, you have the two carriages, so carriage A, this is for your pens and your styluses, and then this is the carriage B, clamp B, and it comes preloaded with the fine point blade and a blade already installed. So you don't have to replace the entire housing if you need a new blade. You can actually just replace that little blade tip, and then you can just use the same housing. Up on the top, you have a slot for your devices, so your phones or your iPads, and then there is a USB charging port on the side, so I can plug it in and then plug my phone in so it can charge while I'm using it. You have tool storage on this side. There's 2 cups, so I can drop in some pens or blades or whatever I want to keep in there. And then down here, you have a ton of tool storage. I added these little inserts to make it super organized, and I can link those in the video description. But I can keep all of my additional blades and tools super organized down here. All my weeding tools, it's great, I love it. And then everything stays in place when you close it up. On the machine, you have a few buttons. You have a power button, a load button, the go button, and then a pause button. So it's really intuitive, super user-friendly. I feel like it's the easiest machine to use on the market. Before I move on to the Cameo, I did want to mention a couple of things inside the machine. So inside the machine, the clamp B, it fits in these tools that are a part of the adaptive tool system. The adaptive tool system is really cool because it can kind of grow with you. So as you learn more crafts or want to explore more crafts, you can buy different tools that really support that. So I just added the rotary tool in there, and it uses gears to turn, which makes cutting fabric, cutting with a knife blade really, really awesome and really fast. So the adaptive tool system is really cool. Other than that, I think I will save anything else for when we're actually cutting. You'll get to hear how quiet it is, how fast, see how fast it is, all that good stuff. Looking at the Silhouette, the lid slides open, so you can kind of just push it back and out of the way. It does not feel as quality. It is plastic, it's not an aluminum top. And then on the right side, you're going to have all of your buttons that kind of illuminate. So you don't see them while it's powered off, but we'll go over those buttons. One new feature of the Silhouette Cameo is they added these pinch rollers, so you can easily move where this is, so it will support different size materials. And then there's little grooves where they sit in, so you can do the same thing with these rollers and move them and then lock them in place, which is really cool. They also have the 2 carriages. So tool 1, I have the auto blade in it right now. To open it up, you just pull it out, and then the back of the blade is flat, so it's really easy to insert it in, and that will auto adjust just like the Cricut blade, and then you push it in to lock it into place. The second tool holder is the powered tool. I don't have any powered tools to show you, but you can see up here at the top, there's kind of these little terminals and you plug in your tools and it will have power right to the tool. Like I mentioned, there is no storage for tools on this machine. And on the side of the machine, power button, your USB port, and then your power cable hole. Okay, let's move on to software. In the past, you probably heard that Cricut software was not that great. They have made a lot of improvements and I feel like they're competitive with Silhouette, although I still do believe that Silhouette is the winner in most things, although Cricut does have some things that I like more. So we'll go through and I'll call those out as I go over it, but depending on the information that you're seeing or how new or old that information is, it may be out of date. So this will be the most up-to-date information that you can get right now. So software for both the Cricut and the Silhouette, they are free to use. You can upload your own images, you can cut your own fonts, you can bring in any design that you want and cut for free. If you want to use images or fonts that are paid through the software, you have to pay for both. So both of them are free to use. You can even download them right now today. I will put them in the video description and you can use them for free. Obviously, you won't be able to do everything without a machine, but you can go in and play and see what you like and see what you don't like. To import JPEGs, BMP, and PNG files, both the Cricut and the Silhouette support that for free. If you want to import an SVG, a scalable vector graphic, you can do that on Cricut Maker, Cricut machines for free. For the Silhouette Cameo 5, you do need Designer Edition or above, and that starts at about $49. It's a one-time payment. Basic design and text tools, they both have. Manipulation tools, so moving, rotating, scaling, aligning, replicating, all that good stuff, both of them have, it's free. Modification tools, welding, dividing, cropping, subtracting, all that free, both of them. Cut by line or fill color. So Cricut kind of has that, where it kind of leads into the next one, auto arrange on the mat. So if I were to bring in different images, which I will show you later, it will automatically put it onto the color that it belongs on. Silhouette, you don't have that automatic arranging function, but you can say, I only want to cut the purples or I only want to cut the pinks. And so there is a cut by line and fill color, and that gives you a lot more freedom if you're cutting two different materials on the same mat, for example. So say I want to cut cardstock and vinyl at the same time, I can do that. With the Cricut, you really can't. But the Cricut's auto arrange function right here on the mat, it allows you to organize your mats so much quicker than Silhouette. And it's a huge point in favor of Cricut. I love the auto arrange on mat. Silhouette doesn't have that, but again, we'll go through that. Both have tracing for free. Both have offset for free. Print then cut is what Cricut calls it. Print and cut is what Silhouette call it. They both have it where you can print an image and then cut it out using your machine. You do have to print it through the software though. You can use any font with your Cricut or your Silhouette. Pick Scan mat, it's a mat that Silhouette has and it's an additional purchase, so it does not come with your machine, but it's a cutting mat that will allow you to place an image and then you can scan it into your software and add cut lines to it. So that's pretty cool. Cricut has something similar. It's called Snap Mat, but it doesn't allow you to kind of work on the picture necessarily. It's more for arranging material so that you can cut it. PicScan is much more robust, so a point in favor for the Silhouette on that one. Next, the project library. I think this is a huge one. So when I worked at Cricut, I actually was a designer and I was building projects for the project library. So Cricut makes it really easy for you to choose a project, pay for that project, and then you kind of see the entire finished project, but also have step-by-step instructions on how to do that. I think Silhouette saw how successful that was when Cricut did that and they added something similar. Their library isn't as robust as Cricut's, but they do have a project library now where you can buy projects and they have instructions. Local saving. So Cricut allows you to save locally to your app, but they don't allow you to save outside of your app. So it's a big issue where people want to save a project and then print it outside of their program without registration marks or without, any type of screenshotting. And they don't have an ability to save from your program. So you can screenshot it, or you can share it within the app, but you can't save it locally to your computer outside of the app. Whereas Silhouette, if you're working on a design from scratch and you want to save it as an SVG and then send that somewhere or even sell it, you can actually save it as a file type, which is a huge difference. That was a lot of talking, so now let's see what that actually means in the software. So here I am in Cricut Design Space. It is a desktop app, so you download it from the internet and then it lives on your computer or your mobile device. And inside you can see I have images, I have projects. So if I wanted to click on a project, I could see what images are used in this project. And then I can also see instructions. So this was uploaded from the community, it looks like. If I want to sort it so that I only see projects from Cricut, I can do that too. So you can see that there's lots of projects to make within Cricut Design Space. And then there's also tons of fonts, and look at, they're featuring Blush Font Co., which is a good friend of mine, and I love all of her fonts. So this is the page that you land on. Then you also have a Get Started tab, a Cricut Learn tab, a heat guide in there, and then shop. So there's lots of stuff that you can find within Design Space. Again, you can download this for free and use it right now, even without a machine. If I want to start a new project, I can click New Project. And then I land on this thing called the canvas. This is like an artist where you're working on a canvas. You're not working on your cutting mat. It's just a theoretical canvas. So I'm going to show you the basic right now where I'm bringing in a free shape. So everything I'm showing you is free. So I'm going to drop in a heart, and I'm going to resize that to be about 3 inches. My proportions are locked, so it will scale proportionately. And then I'm going to change the color to be pink. I'm also going to bring in a star. I'll change that to be 3 inches. And I'm going to change that color to be blue. So I have my 2 images, and you can clearly see that the operation on it is basic cut. And if I were to open it, you can see that there's other options that I can choose as well. But for the purposes of this basic tutorial, we're just doing a cut. There are a lot of other things that you can use within here. So lots of tools, lots of, modification tools. So you can design more so now than you could in the past. So if you wanted to make your own image, you could, but just remember that you can't save it anywhere outside of Design Space. When I click Make, it will send me to the Make screen where it automatically puts it onto a cutting mat. So remember, the Cricut Maker 3 did not come with a cutting mat, so you would have to purchase this separately if you want to cut on a mat. And since I'm using cardstock, I would need a mat. If you were cutting a vinyl or something like that, you could cut it without a mat, but again, remember that you need your material to be 13 inches wide. So we're going to say that we're cutting it on a mat, and you can see that it automatically moved my heart to the pink mat, so it knows that my material is pink, and then it moved the star to the blue mat. The color is just for you, so it's not going to make my image pink or blue. It just represents the color that I'm using. So if you were to do a project, it's not going to print blue or anything like that. I'm going to click Continue. I'm connecting using Bluetooth. So both of the machines connect over Bluetooth, so you don't need any type of USB cable or anything like that. So if you didn't have a machine, you wouldn't be able to see this next screen, but once you connect to your machine, you will be able to see the different materials you can cut. So I chose a basic cut, and you can see all of these materials I can cut. I can choose Browse All Materials, and there's even more. So that kind of gives you an idea of how many materials are compatible for this machine. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So I can easily choose that I want to cut medium cardstock, and it makes it really, really easy to cut. I can choose a different material for the blue if I wanted to, or I can say, remember my material settings because I'm using cardstock for pink and blue. But this screen makes it so easy for a new machine owner. So if you are somebody that's not tech savvy and you want somebody to hold your hand through the software process, this software is for you because it puts you into this cut flow where you can't make the next move until you choose the right action. So it won't let you move on, and it kind of doesn't let you mess up. So for Cricut, it's really, really user friendly, But I know in the comments, people will say that it's so user-friendly that it's actually limiting, which I understand because when you see Silhouette, there's so many more options and you have so much more control. You are limited with your control here. Before I jump over to Silhouette, I did want to call out the margins on the side so you can see that you do lose that 1/4 of an inch right here and right here on the margin. So I can't move my heart outside of that margin. So I can move it anywhere on the mat, but I can't go outside that 1/4 inch margin. And the reason that that margin is there is it's to protect you from cutting outside of your material. So if you were to put your cardstock a little off and, ended up loading your mat incorrectly, it will save you from wasting your material. So I do think it's important, but 1/4 of an inch is kind of steep. So I did want to mention that you do lose that margin. And now let's switch over to Silhouette. So I have business edition, but I'm going to show you it in the standard free edition so you can see which tools are included in the free edition as well. So I am on my machine. It's a Cameo 5, so I have the right machine selected. So if you want to play around in the software, make sure you choose the correct machine. And then instead of working on a canvas, you'll see that we're actually working on a cutting mat. So this represents the cutting mat and you are designing within the cutting mat area. Of course, you can work outside of that mat, but you're placing your items on the actual mat. So we'll do the exact same thing. So the free shapes are a little bit more limited on Silhouette, so we can't do the heart or the star in the free version. So I might change to, let's change because I want to make sure that we have the right images. So I'm going to go to business edition, but you won't be able to replicate this in the free version, unfortunately. But you can see that in the business edition, I have lots more shapes. So we'll grab a heart and draw it out here. And we'll make it about the same size as Cricut. So we'll add the heart and you can adjust it the same way where I can type in the dimensions I want. I think I did a 3-inch height wise. I don't remember. So we added our heart, and when you're working in Silhouette Studio, you can see that instead of filling in the object like Cricut does, it just gives you a cut line. So it has just a cut path, and then I'll change the colors after I add my star. So we'll add a star, make it 3 inches as well. And now I'm going to go back to view in the standard edition. Okay, so I have my heart and my star, and if I wanted to assign colors and cut them similar to what I was doing with the Cricut, I would have to change their color. So I'm going to give it the same color, so pink. The line doesn't actually matter because it's set to a 0 stroke, but I can just turn off the red outline. And then I'm going to set this one to be blue, so similar to my Cricut. And again, the colors don't mean anything other than it's representing the material that you're using. So this will not print. Your cutting machine is just that. It cuts material, it doesn't print. Your printer will print if you wanted to use color. So the colors just represent what materials you'll be cutting. I know that's a little bit confusing when you first get started. Oh my gosh, I was just gonna move on and show you how to set it up to cut, but I didn't even do an overview of what was in the software. It looks very similar to Cricut. You have tools on the left side, you have more tools on the top, and then you have some tools, and some of them are not able to be accessed unless you have the higher version. So you can kind of play around and see what's included in the free version. But similar to Cricut, you have your store, you have a library where you can save your designs that you purchase, and then you have a send tab, which is similar to the make tab. So if I wanted to see those same projects that I was telling you about on Cricut, it will open a website. And you can see that it takes me to a design store very similar where I see fonts, I see images, and then if I wanted projects, I could go to the project tab and it would be very similar to what I saw on the Cricut side. So here's a look at some of those projects, very similar to Cricut where you can click on one of them, it will show you the images required and then what required resources, and then if you need to have any instructions, they would be included there too. So very similar experience. The main difference is that it has a lot more freedom and you're not kind of forced into any flow. So if you don't know what you're doing, there is a steeper learning curve on Silhouette Studio for sure, but that also enables you to have more control over everything in Silhouette Studio. So now that I have my designs, I can click send, which is similar to the make option on Cricut. And then let me turn on my machine so that we have all the functionality. Okay, for whatever reason, my Bluetooth was not working. I tried to connect it up here with my Bluetooth and it's clearly showing, but for whatever reason, it would not come up down here, which is weird because that hasn't ever happened before. So I did have to plug it in with a hard USB cable, and it doesn't come with the USB cable. So keep that in mind. You may just want to have a USB cable available in case it does this to you. Okay, now that my machine is connected and powered on, you can see that it automatically detects that I have an auto blade in there, and it will allow me to choose materials that are compatible with that tool. So now this is kind of what I was talking about with the auto mat arrange. And I know the Silhouette users are going to come for me when I say that you can't do this because you technically can, but it's not the same. So if I want to just cut the heart or just cut the star in the upper left-hand corner, I have to literally put them over one another like this. And then I have to go to fill and I have to turn off whichever one I don't want to cut. So if I want to cut the blue one first, I have to turn off the pink. Then I have to cut it, and then I have to turn the pink one back on and then turn the blue one off. If I want to cut it in the upper left-hand corner, like I showed you with the Cricut, where it automatically just puts it into the upper left-hand corner. My other option is to leave it in this simple window and drag one off, cut that, drag it off, and then put this one back on. So in my opinion, Cricut makes that so much easier, but in the same breath, since this is more complicated on the Silhouette side, if I wanted to say, okay, this one, my star, I'm going to cut it, let's go back over to cut by fill. I'm going to cut my star and it's going to be cotton fabric. And then I want to cut this pink one and I'm going to move it over to this corner and I want it to be cardstock. I can do that in the same action, whereas Cricut would freak out and you can't do that. There's no way to do that. So while it's more difficult on the Silhouette side, you have more control. So this is just a very brief overview of the software because I have demos on my channel of both the Cricut software and Silhouette software, and even using Silhouette software with the Cricut, which I don't even think I mentioned, but since you can export to an SVG on Silhouette, if you want to design all the things in Silhouette, but you like the Cricut, for whatever reason you want the Cricut Maker and you like the Cricut Design Space flow like I do, then you can export to an SVG, upload it to Cricut, and then cut it on your Cricut. So you can use the Silhouette software basically with the Cricut machine. So that is an option. But this is kind of just an overview, and we will go into now cutting machine capability. I'm going to show you this same demo with just a cut on cardstock on both machines. And I was going to show you fabric, but since most people probably won't end up buying the rotor blade, I'm going to skip that and we're going to do a print then cut instead. Okay, so let's do the Maker cut first and then we'll do the Cameo. Okay, I think I kind of figured out why my Cameo was freaking out with the Bluetooth. It's because my Cricut Maker was also attached and I feel like they were maybe competing because now my Cricut is struggling with the Bluetooth. So I think that is probably on my side a user issue because my Bluetooth is illuminating on my Cricut just like it was on my Silhouette but will not connect. So I think they're fighting. I'm going to turn off my Bluetooth on the Cameo. Okay, so I'm going to set my material to be medium cardstock. And as a reminder, the cutting mat does not come in the box. So you would have to purchase a cutting mat separately. The cutting mat is this sticky mat and it holds your material in place while it's going through the machine. So you load your material onto the sticky mat and just press it down. And then to load this, you push it up against these clips. So there's guides, which make it really easy to load. Again, super user friendly. And then while kind of holding my mat against the roller, you click the load button right here. You do need to have some room behind your machine because the mat will come out and measure. You can hear how quiet the Cricut is. And once it measures that you have enough material, it will allow you to continue. If you put in the wrong material or the wrong size, it would say, hey, stop, I don't want you to mess this up, and you won't be able to continue. So again, very user-friendly. This light will flash at you when it's ready to go, the go button, so go ahead and click that. Make sure your tool is loaded in with the blade. The Cricut will come and detect to make sure you have the right tool in. And then once it's done, you can click the unload button. To unload it off the mat, I just flip mine over and then peel from the back. And you get your perfect little heart. To unload the rest of your material, you can do the same thing, where you just kind of pop it off your mat. So there's the cut on the Cricut Maker. I had no doubt that it would cut perfect. And now we'll see that same cut on the Cameo. The Cameo does come with a cutting mat, so I'm going to load the same paper right onto my mat. Stick it on there. I'm going to move the star off the mat. Don't come for me in the comments. And then I'm going to use this simple tab because I feel like most people will use this tab when they're making their actions. So I'm going to line that up with the border. I'm going to use textured cardstock, but you can see that just like Cricut, there's a ton of options. And then I want to cut my project. So if you select your image, you can see right now it says cut. If it had cuts on the inside and I just wanted to cut the edge, I could do that. And then the settings will automatically set for you, just like the Cricut. But if you wanted to change specific things, so if I said, oh, I know my cardstock's a little bit thicker, so I want the force to go up and the speed to go down, you can make all of those changes by yourself right here. So if I wanted to increase the blade depth even. So you can see that you just have a lot of play. So you can make a lot of decisions, but it also is very overwhelming and, in my opinion, not as user-friendly because you have to make a lot of decisions, but also gives you a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. All right, now that the settings are all good to go, we're going to load in our mat. So unlike Cricut, it doesn't kind of push you into this flow. You kind of need to know what you're going to do. But if you click send, it will give you a pop-up and says, oh, you need to load in your mat. So it does tell you that if you don't know what to do next. So we're going to load in the mat. There aren't any plastic clips like the Cricut, but there is a line to line up your material. So I can line it up to that line. And then just like the Cricut, while still holding my mat against this bar, I'm going to click the load button and it will pull it in to the right depth. Now I can click send, but I also wanted to mention, there's just so much. It's me a long video. There is also a test button. So if I was unsure if my settings were correct, I could click test and it will cut a small test cut instead of wasting all the material I'm going to use for that heart. I'm pretty confident in my settings, so I'm going to click send. It will remind me to make sure that I've loaded my mat, I have, and I've also put the auto blade into the first carriage. So I'm going to click send. The Silhouette does kind of do this blade change where you have to adjust the blade and then you can hear that it is pretty noisy. I'll have to actually see the decibels within my editing software because to me, the Silhouette Cameo 5 sounds louder than the Cricut did, but according to the tech specs, they say that it's quieter. So we'll unload that. And just like the Cricut, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to peel it off. So you can see on my mat, this was my Silhouette cut and you can see just how close to the edge it was. Whereas my Cricut cut, you can see how much further away and how much more material I wasted. Both great cuts. I had no issues with either of them. They came out perfect on each one. If you're still here and you're still watching, I'm going to assume that you still haven't made your decision. So let's do one more project together. We're going to do a print then cut, or print and cut as Silhouette would call it. And that means that we're going to print an image off of our computer and then use that printed image that printed out of our printer I know it's very confusing. Some people think that Cricuts and Silhouette print. They can draw, they can cut, they can do a lot of things, but they cannot print. So you do need a home printer, an actual ink printer. We're going to print those images, and then we're going to use our cutting machine to detect where the image is and cut it out. So this is the technique that you would use if you were making stickers, printable stickers. I'm just going to do them on cardstock to save material, but this will kind of show you how each of them work. For our print then cut, I'm going to use a Silhouette image. So I'm going to show you quickly how to download it. And I'm going to use this little gathered pumpkin. So I'm going to choose SVG since I'm going to use it on my Cricut. And then I'm going to check out on the design store. And then on the Cricut side, I'm going to upload that SVG. I'll quickly make this into a printable image. Okay, so I brought that image in from Silhouette and I uploaded it to Cricut, modified it to make it a print then cut. That is a whole different tutorial, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But just know that if you want to use Silhouette images with your Cricut machine, you can. You just need to purchase the SVG version. So I modified it, and then the max print then cut, like I talked about, for a letter size sheet of paper is 9.32 by 6.75. So I've maxed out on my height, and now I'm going to click Make It. It automatically put it on an 11 by 17 material size, which I'm not sure why it did when I could fit on the 8.5 by 11. So I'm just going to change that. And it knows it's a print then cut, so it's going to print out the image and then cut around the edge and inside this negative space right there. We'll print out this image. I'm going to add bleed, so that will add a little edge of color around each of the pumpkins so there's no white. And then I'm going to use my system dialog. I have my printed image with the bleed, so that little extra orange around the edge of my pumpkin is the bleed. I'm going to load that onto my mat, just like I did before, and then load that into my machine. Once I get prompted, I'll click the Go button. And what the Cricut is doing right now is it's detecting where those black marks are, and those black marks are telling the Cricut where the image is. Once it's done, you can unload it. So you'll remove the print then cut the same way as we did our other cardstock project. Flip over your mat. And then this one's a little bit more intricate, so you do kind of have to be a little more careful to peel this guy off. I always prefer to bend my mat instead of my material. So I'll leave half of them on the mat so you can see the bleed. So the bleed is that extra amount of ink around the image so that if it accidentally cut off, you wouldn't see any white, and then you can see what they look like still on the page. And then here is what it looks like cut out. So no white edges, perfectly cut. It did a really good job around that intricate part right there. I didn't lose any details. Again, this image came from the Silhouette design library, and I just uploaded it as an SVG and used it in my Cricut. So it cut it really great. And now for Silhouette, I have my file designed, and then I'm going to click Send. I'll make sure to print it first, so we'll click File, Print. The registration marks look a little different on Silhouette. There's a square and some lines, but very similar. And then now I need to turn on my machine and send it to the machine. So I have my cutting mat. I'm going to load it the same way. When you're loading print then cut projects, it's a little bit easier to load because if you load it off, it will still find the marks and determine where they are. So I'm going to load that in. Click the load button. I'm not sure if I showed the lights on this side before, but those are your buttons for the machine. Pretty cool. I'm going to click Send from my computer and then click Send again. Right now, the Silhouette is detecting where those marks are. The scanner on the Silhouette is an actual optical scanner, so it is, I would argue it's better than the sensor that Cricut uses. Okay, that just cut out and I realized that I forgot to add the print bleed. So similar to Cricut, Silhouette also has a print bleed, so I can click it right here, and I forgot to do that. So keep that in mind when I show you this reveal, that there's no bleed on this and it's still cut pretty accurately. But that was my mistake. I went too fast, I'm losing light. So there is a bleed option that is automatic on Silhouette as well. So with that in mind, let's unload this. So like I mentioned, I didn't add the bleed, but it cut really nicely. So I'll show you that cut. Again, being super careful because the stem and the vine is pretty delicate. So even without a bleed, it was almost perfect. So that is pretty incredible. No bleed on this. So you can see just how accurate. I think that's even maybe more compelling on how great the print and cut is on Silhouette. But I do always add a bleed because you just never know. So those sensors that pick up these marks are so accurate on the Silhouette, and they do use an actual optical scanner so they can see exactly where those marks are. Whereas Cricut's machine uses a black and white sensor to detect the difference between the light and the dark. So it's just a little bit different technology, but I do believe that the Silhouette scanner is much more accurate. So again, no bleed on this one, and it is almost perfect, if not perfect. So that's what print then cut is, or print and cut for Silhouette. It's where you print on your home printer and then cut it using your cutting machine. One last thing that I didn't show you on the Cameo, I called it out on one of the features, but when your machine is powered on and you just do a job, there is, you saw it kind of pop up quickly, but there's like a little repeat option. So I should have shown it to you when the hearts were cutting. After you're done, if you want to repeat the same job, you don't even have to go to your computer. You can just hit that icon and repeat the job. Whereas in the Cricut software, it looks a little bit different, but you don't have that functionality on the machine. All right, I'm losing light. My camera's about to die and I need to wrap this up. But I honestly could talk to you about this for another hour because I feel like there's so much information that I could give to you to help you make this purchase decision. So in order to help you, I need to know what you want to do. Like, what do you want to make? What are you going to use your machine for? And then if I think that there's one machine that outperforms the other, I will tell you. So I'm going to give you some use cases, and if one machine comes out on top in my opinion, I'll share that with you. Before I do, I did want to mention that I didn't have time to show you the roll feeders that come with the Silhouette Cameo 5. So if you're looking to cut rolled materials like vinyls, HTVs, things like that, I think the Silhouette Cameo right out of the box is a better fit because it comes with those roll feeders where you can cut 12-inch materials and 9-inch materials right out of the box. And with the Cricut, you can only cut 13-inch wide materials. Theoretically, you can hack it, and I have, but according to Cricut Design Space, you need the wider materials. That's how it sets it up. And I feel like to kind of work around that is just a headache. So it's easier with the Silhouette Cameo 5. I also didn't have time to mention the electrostatic mat. I feel like that is an add-on. It warrants its own video, but I will mention a use case for that. Okay, so which machine is right for you? Like I said, I feel like there are a few cases where one machine may be better than the other, but this is all just my opinion, so take that as you will when making your decision. I've used the Silhouette Cameo since 2012, and then I started using a Cricut in 2015, so I would consider myself an expert on both, but I know that Cricut users and Silhouette users are very passionate about one brand or the other and have a lot to say. Obviously, I do too, and I love comments. So if you have something that you want to share that you love or you hate or you disagree with something or passionately agree with something I said, leave that in the comments because I love seeing all the different things that you have to say. Also, if you found this video helpful, I would love if you gave it a thumbs up and you liked it because that really helps share this video with other people. And if you decided that you want to buy a machine, tell me in the comments. I want to know what you've decided, and hopefully you subscribe to my channel so that you can learn how to use it here too. Okay, I'm going to remind you one more time, this is all just my opinion. It is not fact, just my opinion. Here's some use cases where I think one machine is better than the other. If you are not tech savvy, get a Cricut Maker 3. In my opinion, it's easier to learn and easier to use. If you want customer service over the phone, tech support, get the Cricut. Silhouette does not have telephone support. Not that Cricut's telephone support is the best, but they do offer it, so it's available to you. If you don't want to use a computer and just want to use a mobile device like an iPad, an Android device, a mobile phone, get a Cricut. Silhouette just launched their mobile app or relaunched it, but right now I still think Cricut's mobile app is better and easier to use. If you want to cut printed images like you saw in this video or stickers, get a Silhouette Cameo 5. The sensor is better. If you want to save money, get the Silhouette Cameo. If you want more control with your software, get the Silhouette Cameo 5. If you want to cut thin materials like crepe paper, tissue paper, maybe you make paper flowers, get the Silhouette Cameo 5 and the electrostatic mat. I know I didn't cover it in this video, but it's perfect for this. If you want to cut matless without a cutting machine mat, get the Cameo 5. Like I said, the roll feeder, you can cut the 9-inch material, the 12-inch materials, and I feel like the Cricut Maker just requires larger materials and it's just kind of clunky. If you're looking to engrave or cut thick wood, don't get either. I would encourage you to check out the X-Tool M1 or even a Glowforge. I know that this is such a personal decision, and for me, I think that each machine is great and worth the investment. You honestly can't go wrong. So hopefully those use cases helped you make your decision. Like I said, you can't go wrong. And if this video helped you make a decision, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I would love for you to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends if you know that they're in the market for a machine. And I will put everything I talked about in the video description so that you can easily find all of the links to all of the machines. And by shopping through those links, I may earn a commission that directly supports this channel so I can continue making content for free. So more tutorials on everything you need to know about your new cutting machine. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.